Hey, this is C&D channel. I'm Chris. This is MMA for you. I'm going to be doing my predictions for UFC 164, Henderson versus Pettis 2, which happens on August 31st. As far as the card goes, I like this card a lot. Henderson Pettis, really strong fight right there. Barnett versus Mir is a fight I've wanted to see for a while. I think Mendes Guida, I think Mendes kind of trucks him, but we'll get to that. I'm not too big on Rothwell versus Vera, to be honest, on the main card. To be perfectly honest with you, if I'm not mistaken, both are coming off losses as well. Erik Koch versus Dustin Poirier. They both come off losses, but they are top featherweight, so that should be a fun fight as well. Got some Korean talent here as well. Hangyu Lim is fighting again. Kyung-Ho Kang. So yeah, not a bad card at all. Okay, let's get started on the main card and the main event. We have Smooth Benson Henderson versus Anthony Showtime Pettis. This is a really hard fight to call. It's just thing with Pettis. He's on a 3-fight winning streak right now. Really strong kickboxing, good defense. He's a guy that you generally don't see get hit clean very often. Really good kicks. Uses a lot of unorthodox strikes. You're not just talking about like the Pettis kick. On Cerrone, he jumped off the cage and threw a knee. Even on Guida, he jumped off the cage and did a back kick, if I'm not mistaken. His takedown defense has been improving, and even his offensive takedowns have been improving. He showed that against like Jeremy Stephens. It's good off his back. But Benson Henderson, 7-fight win streak. He does have those contentious wins over Frankie Edgar and Gilbert Melendez. I personally thought he beat Mendes in 3 rounds. I thought Frankie Edgar won their second fight, but I thought Benson Henderson actually won their first fight. His stand-up is improving. He's training out of the MMA lab. His leg kicks have been a very strong weapon. He's really strong into clinch. He likes to bully guys there. Really good into scrambles, and his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is solid as well. Got a really good guillotine. His takedown defense is really good, and he's really flexible as well. His offense, wrestling, strong. And his cardio is very good as well. He's been shown to be able to go 5 rounds without really fading. And that's actually one of the differences between their first fight. I did feel that Henderson's cardio in their first fight wasn't very strong. It actually surprised me. He looked to be fading pretty quick, pretty early on. I don't think that'll be a problem this time around. Stylistically, this is a tough fight because Pettis will be pretty much the best striker that Henderson will have faced up to this point. And then Pettis, I know at Rufus Sports he's training with like Ben Askren and whatnot. And he is showing better takedown defense. So it's one of those things where stylistically, Pettis could potentially beat him up on the feet and avoid takedowns or scramble back to his feet if he is taken down. Or Benson Henderson could keep him there. Maybe throw some ground and pound. Maybe replicate a Guida type of strategy. That's the other thing you gotta look at since their fight. Anthony Pettis, he fought like Jeremy Stephens, Lozon, Cerrone. The thing is, and Guida. He lost against Guida. He got out wrestled. Scott put in his back and kept there for a while. The Stephens fight, actually wasn't one of his better performances, but he showed good adjustment and that's where he showed more of his improved takedown defense and his offensive wrestling. It wasn't the best fight for him, actually. He didn't look that great. But then against Lozon, head kick, ground and pound, and Cerrone, body kick, ground and pound. Looked fantastic in those fights. Henderson's been fighting the top of the heap, though. I mean, you're talking guys like, when he first got into UFC, Bochek, beat up Mark Bochek. Really showed good aggressiveness, especially in the clinch. He clinches you against the cage, knees you a lot, goes for the takedown. Using knees likes a lot. Just was really aggressive in that fight. And the Jim Miller fight after that, I mean, his ground and pound was just deadly. I mean, he was just taking down Miller, ground and pound. Looks to have almost broke his will in a sense, to be perfectly honest with you. Fought Guida, great fight there, a lot of scrambling and whatnot. One of the more exciting fights of that year. Then he fought Edgar. I thought he beat Edgar 3 rounds in the first fight. Didn't think he beat Edgar at all in the second fight. Then he goes on to beat Nate Diaz, dominates him, out-wrestles him, out-strikes him, drops him. Then he goes and beats Melendez. Contentious fight. I personally had it for Benson Henderson. So it's... I would actually argue that Benson Henderson's level of competition since their first fight has definitely been stronger than Anthony Pettis' level of competition since their first fight. Even within that stretch, Pettis' strongest win was against Cerrone. Great fighter. Cerrone's a great fighter. Benson Henderson actually had a contentious first fight with Donald Cerrone the first time. Guillotined him in the first round easily. Just bullied him up against the cage. Threw some knees and whatnot. Took down within the scramble. Guillotine. Cerrone taps out. That's the thing. And then Henderson, of course, beat Guida. Guida beat Pettis. So if you look at the level of competition, you got to give the edge to Henderson. Stylistically, like I said, I'd kind of favor Pettis more, to be perfectly honest with you. Better striker, cleaner striker, just better technique, good defensively. I think we'll probably see a lot more wrestling from Benson Henderson. Don't know if he'll get he got his back taken in the first fight too. It's going to show how good Pettis' underrated his ground game is. So, like I said, this one's really tough for me to call. I'm going to go with Benson Henderson. I just think he's definitely he's fought the stronger level of competition. I would argue that, and some people actually argue this point, that they see more improvement in Henderson since their first fight than they've seen with Pettis. It's really hard to say though, because Pettis knocked out his last 2 opponents in the first round. What can you say? Whereas Henderson has not finished an opponent in the UFC. He's always been to decision. Some of them are contentious decisions as well. So that's another factor as well to think about, that Pettis finishes dudes off. And Henderson just so far has not. Given his level of competition, he's not fighting guys that lend themselves to getting finished. Frankie Edgar, Nate Diaz, Gilbert Melendez are not guys that generally get finished easily. Jim Miller's another guy. Even Bochek. Bochek doesn't get finished that easily. So that's the other thing to consider there. There's some other things to consider as well in this fight. I forgot what it was. I totally forgot what it was. I don't know if the other thing to think about too is Pettis coming off some sort of injury or something. That's another thing to think about too, because he pulled out of the Jose Aldo fight earlier this month, and there's a lot of rumors what it could be. Maybe he just couldn't cut the weight or whatnot. So I think the reported thing is he got some sort of like minor injury, but he's able to come back at the end of the month. So, you gotta consider, is he injured? Was he partially injured? And if that's the case, did it affect his training or not? Who knows? So yeah, but overall, I'm gonna go with Benson Henderson to win this one. I think he'll be able to take the fight to the ground. He's got to watch out for Pettis' game off his back. Pettis does have the better striking, though. He does have good takedown defense. So, yeah, really tough fight to call. Really interesting fight, nonetheless. A rematch I've wanted to see for a while. So, yeah, should be a good fight. I'll go with that. Oh, yeah, the other thing to consider about Benson Henderson is that for whatever reason, the judges love Benson Henderson's offense. There's something about his offense. It showed in like the Frankie Edgar fight especially that maybe it's just more pronounced. When he hits a leg kick, it seems like more pronounced than other guys' offense. But, whatever it is, there's something about Benson Henderson's offense that the judges tend to like over a lot of other fighters. And as much as it sucks to hear, I mean, it's it's kind of the truth, It's like, oh man, the judges for whatever reason favor Benson Henderson. It's like, yeah, I mean, that's what it seems like, Interesting records too, 19-2 record for Benson Henderson. Anthony Pettis, 16-2 record. I mean, really not that far off as far as just the overall record is concerned as well. So yeah, good fight here. Really interested to see how it turns out. The next fight after that, Josh Barnett, the War Master, fights Frank Mir. This is a really interesting fight just because Barnett is coming off a win over Nandor Guamino, and Frank Mir is coming off a 2-fight losing streak. And quite honestly, I'm going with Josh Barnett to win this one. It'll be interesting to see if Frank Mir will be in a 3-fight losing streak. I don't think he'll be cut because he's Frank Mir, former heavyweight champion. They like him, company man, and whatnot. Stylistically, this is a great fight. There isn't a lot of trash. I thought they'd have a lot more trash talk between the two leading up to here. Hasn't been yet, but fight week's coming up. We'll see what happens. I wanted to see this fight for a while. Frank Mir was like a young, up-and-coming heavyweight when Josh Barnett was pretty much winning the UFC title. They were in the same organization during the same time. Barnett got out, though. Frank Mir stayed. Record-wise, Barnett, 32-6 record, 7 wins by KO TKO, 20 wins by sub, 35 years old, and he has a catch wrestling base. Important that I say catch wrestling because you'll notice it mainly in his top control. He has a really smothering top control. He'll go for like the legs and whatnot, prefers the arm triangle. You'll notice he'll put a forearm on the guy's face a lot of times, on the guy's neck, and make the guy on the bottom as uncomfortable as possible. He's just an overall strong wrestler, suffocating top control. He has a really good chin. You can see it in like the Daniel Cormier fight. The guy got head kicked. The guy got hit clean a lot. Just kept going. Stand-up's actually pretty solid, Overall, just standard, good kickboxing. Isn't poor by any stretch of that imagination. And he does have a strong Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game as well. 20 of his wins are by sub. I know he likes the arm triangle. He likes getting mount. He has a very suffocating mount. But he's fighting Frank Mir, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, 16-7 record with 9 of those wins by submission. One thing of note with Frank Mir, though, 6 of his 7 losses are by KO or TKO, and he's 34 years old. He is strong off his back, and his stand-up is good as well. He's not a particularly quick striker. He does have some pretty good kicks, actually. And his wrestling isn't that bad. It's not great by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not that bad either. He's able to take down Roy Nelson consistently. Let me see who else. And overall, just overall, he doesn't sound to have like bad wrestling. He's a good, I'd say like average, good wrestler. His chin just isn't that great. I mean, considering who he's fighting, though, to be expected, he's fighting heavyweights and the heaviest hitters in the division. But at the same time, dude doesn't like getting hit. I mean, defensively, he definitely has some liabilities in the stand-up. I think Josh Barnett, quite honestly, is the better striker. Probably the better wrestler. Mir is probably better Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. And even though I say that Josh Barnett is better in these areas, it's not like Frank Mir is incompetent in the areas that I feel that Barnett is better at. Like I said, I think Barnett's a good striker. I think he's better than Mir. It's not to say that Mir is going to get outclassed on the feet. I think Barnett's a better wrestler. Frank Mir isn't a bad wrestler. And he's good off his back as well. So even if he does get taken down, he's where he wants to be anyways. Barnett, though, and like I said, I think Mir's a better Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner, but Barnett is by far not a slouch. I think Barnett is going to win this one, just better stand-up. I think he can take the fight to the ground if he wants to. And that would be very interesting as well. Barnett has a better chin. Whereas Frank Mir, his chin just isn't that good. So I'll go Josh Barnett to win this one. Next fight, that Clay Guida fights Chad Money Mendes. I gotta go with Mendes here, man. This guy is pretty much the number 2, arguably maybe number 3 if you think Pat Curran's the number 2 featherweight out there. Mendes 14-1 record. There's only losses to Jose Aldo. 3-fight win streak. Training out of Team Alpha Male. I think he's a better wrestler than Clay Guida. I think his stand-up is greatly improving. He has good cardio. I think he's a better wrestler. I think he's a better striker than Clay Guida. Didn't notice this with Guida. He has a 30-13 record, with 15 of those wins are by submission, but 6 of his losses are by sub. He's 31. Trains at Jackson's. Good wrestler, he's relentless about getting takedowns, good top control, good cardio. His striking isn't great. He'll use a lot of superfluous movement. You saw it in the Gray Maynard fight especially, and a little bit in the Gomi fight where he just kind of moves around erratically and whatnot. He's good in the scramble. He's a generally tough guy to keep down. Like I said, I think Chad Mendes is pretty much better just everywhere. At this point, I don't even think Clay Guida beat Hatsuyoki in his last fight. I think Kyoki did more from his back than Guida did more on top position, and I thought Hioki was outstriking him as well. Gotta go Chad Mendes to win this one. Next fight after that, Ben Rothwell fights Brandon Vera. This one's actually kind of hard for me to call because from a technical level, I think Brandon Vera is better than Ben Rothwell. The size differential favors Ben Rothwell, though. Ben Rothwell is more of a natural heavyweight, whereas Brandon Vera, he's not like a small light, he looked like a light heavyweight, you know what I mean? Whenever he fought in heavyweight, I always thought that he was a light heavyweight, a blown-up light heavyweight, pretty much. Record-wise, Ben Rothwell, 32-9 record with 18 wins by KO or TKO, 11 wins by sub. He's 31 years old. He's so far been trading wins and losses. Lost to Gonzaga last time out. He beat Shaw before that, if I'm not mistaken. If you look at his record, and if you're going by that, these trading wins and losses, he should win this one because he lost the last one, and he should win this one. But he's heavy-handed. He's kind of a brawler. He's got a really good chin. His defense, though, isn't very good. And he has some questionable cardio as well. Brandon Vera, 12-6 record with 1 no contest. 7 of those wins are by KO or TKO, 1 win by sub. He has 3 losses by KO or TKO. I didn't know this. He's 35, which is really funny. Ben Rothwell doesn't look like he's 31. I thought the ages should be switched here. Trains at Alliance. When he's on it, he has good Muay Thai. It's funny, considering that he has like this Greco-Roman background and trained at the Olympic training center, he's been taken down a good amount of times. Thiago Silva's managed to take him down. Shogun's managed to take him down. I think Randy was able to take him down too. I'm not too sure. I don't really want to remember that fight. So he showed, John Jones, of course, took him down. He showed decent takedown defense. But considering, his pedigree, I would have thought he'd have stronger takedown defense. I don't think he'll be taken down by Rothwell here. And he does have good kicks, especially leg kicks. One of his issues, though, is mental. It's just the guy can't seem to pull the trigger. I mean, the guy's having, geez, I forgot who he fought. But I remember, he fought, Elliot Marshall, And it's just he's winning the first 2 rounds, just barely. And then he gets, wobbled in third, almost armbarred, And it's you're having a hard time beating the lower tier guys. He looked good against Shogun, but I hate to rain down on the parade there, but it's just kind of Shogun isn't that great these days. You know what I mean? It was a fun fight. Brandon Vera, what he did show was that he wasn't gonna give up, but he would relinquish takedowns and whatnot. A lot of his issues tend to be mental, He always say, the old Brandon Vera's coming back. It's nah, he's probably not. That's the problem. I don't know if a move back to heavyweight's good for him as well. He is going to be undersized here. But, you know what? I got to go with Brandon Vera. Ben Rothwell, I would pick Rothwell to win just mainly because of the size factor, to be honest, and he's heavy-handed. Otherwise, on a technical level, Ben Rothwell, he's easy to hit clean. Vera is, the more technically sound fighter. It's not like Rothwell is a great wrestler or anything like that. I don't think he'll be able to take Vera down. He might be able to just with his size alone, but he might pin him up, do a Tim Sylvia, and pin him up against a cage for 3 rounds, But otherwise, you know what? I'm going to go with Brandon Vera to win this one. I think he's just a more technically sound fighter. Mental issues make me scared for him. The size also doesn't favor him as well. If he can put it together, I think he can probably beat a Ben Rothwell, though. And finally, Erik Koch fights Dustin Poirier. These two are like clones of each other. Okay, Erik Koch, 13-2 record. Dustin Poirier, 13-3 record. Koch, 3 wins by KO or TKO, 7 wins by sub. Poirier, 5 wins by KO or TKO, 6 wins by sub. They're both 24 years old. Koch trains out of Rufus Sports, whereas Dustin Poirier trains out of ATT. Both these guys have very underrated Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Erik Koch shown some pretty good takedown defense against Jonathan Brookins. I think he was able to defend a couple takedowns against Mendes as well. Both of them are strong kickboxers with good kicks. One thing I will say though, Dustin Poirier does not have the same defense that Erik Koch does. Dustin Poirier's defense honestly isn't that great. This guy was getting beaten up by Jonathan Brookins. He takes a lot. He just takes a lot of clean hits to the head a lot of times. See it in the Cub Swanson fight. See it in the Korean Zombie fight. Erik Koch did get blasted by Ricardo Lamas in his last fight. Bloodied up. That was mainly due to ground and pound, though. In the stand-up, Erik Koch was actually doing pretty well. He made a really big mistake, and he got taken down because of it. Otherwise, yeah, I think I'm going to go with Erik Koch just because of that. That's really the difference maker. I think Erik Koch is just... I think they're like the same guy, except that I think Erik Koch is just better defensively than Dustin Poirier. Otherwise, they'd pretty much be the same fighter. Pretty much. So yeah, I'll go with Erik Koch to win this one. Get on the Fox Sports 1 prelims. This one's tough for me to call as Gleison Tibau fights Jamie Varner. Jamie Varner, man, I didn't really think much of him when he came back to UFC. Then he goes and TKOs Edson Barboza, hot prospect. Loses to Lozon, but looks great, it's one of the fights of the year. Goes on to beat Melvin Gillard, just looking good lately, Tibau, man, this guy is just quietly, that guy who just is a UFC lifer, it's funny, I think he has, he's in the record books for, most fights in the UFC. I don't remember what the number is. I don't think he's, number 1, but I know he's in, the top 3 or top 5 as far as most fights in the UFC. Tibau, 27-9 record, 3 wins by KO TKO, 12 wins by sub. He's 30 years old, trains at the American Top Team. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, notoriously big for the weight class, good wrestler, good top control, really good takedown defense, and his stand-up is improving. However, Jamie Varner, 21-7 record with 1 draw and 2 no contests, with 7 wins by KO TKO, 11 wins by sub. He also has 4 losses by sub. 28 years old. He's training out of Arizona Combat Sports and the MMA lab. Notably, he has good boxing. Really good boxing, just good hands in general. Does have a tendency to kind of load up, and he has something of a talent where he loads up and then strikes. A lot of people can't see it though. And he's actually a good wrestler as well. And that's what makes this fight kind of interesting, because I think Jamie Varner actually has the better stand-up than Gleison Tibau. It really just depends if he can defend the wrestling from Tibau. That's the big question. And Tibau, he is big for the weight class. I can see him take Varner down to the ground. Maybe consistently, and that really would be the deciding factor in this fight, in my opinion. I think Varner outboxes Tibau, but I think at the same time he'll probably get taken down and maybe stay on the bottom for long periods of time. It's tough for me to call. It could go the other way around, where Jamie Varner beats him up on the feet and manages to avoid the takedowns. But I just have a feeling that Tibau's going to be able to take the fight to the ground, use his top control, maybe threaten with some submissions or 2. So I'll go with Gleison Tibau to win this one. Okay, next fight after that. This one's actually tough for me to call, as Tim Elliott fights Luis Guida. With Elliott, he has a 9-3 record with 1 draw. He had an interesting fight with Jared Papazian in his last fight. They're jawing at each other and whatnot, but he has 3 wins by KO TKO, 4 wins by sub, 26 years old. Really unorthodox striking. You ever watch that John Dodson fight? He's starting jumping crescent kicks and 540s and whatnot. It's pretty cool. Guida, though, he has a really notable win over John Lineker, who's coming up in the division. Won by standing I think it wasn't really standing guillotine, but he did beat him by guillotine. 6-2 record, 2 wins by KO TKO, 2 wins by sub. He's 28 years old. You know, he has a good chin, good striker with some solid Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. One of the problems with Guida, though, he last fought in May 2012, so he's coming off a year layoff. Despite that, though, I think I'm going to go with Luis Guida to win this one. Okay, next fight with that, we have Pascal Kraus versus Hyung-Yu Lim. Well, Kraus has an 11-1 record with 2 wins by KO TKO, 7 wins by sub, 26 years old, and he trains out of Rufus Sports. His stand-up is improving, and he does have some good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. With Lim, though, his 11-3 record with 1 draw, 8 wins by KO TKO, 2 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by sub, on a 6-fight win streak, and 28 years old. Trained out of Korean top team. Stand-up's good. Yeah, he showed some really good knees in his last fight. Geez, who did he fight in his last fight? Like Guarez or something like that? I forgot who he fought in his last fight. But it was actually a pretty bad fight. It's kind of a boring. It just wasn't a great fight. They were both guys seemed a bit gassed. But Lim managed to get some knee, I think a really well-timed knee in there, and won by a KO/TKO. But he does have some questionable cardio, as he's only been in the 3rd round once in his career. So yeah, that was in a decision. No, is it once? Yeah. Yeah, he's only been in the 3rd round once in his career. So you gotta wonder about his cardio. I think Lim will be able to outstrike Kraus. Don't really know about the ground game, but I'll go with Hyung-Yu Lim to win this one. Next fight after that, Chico Camus fights Kyung-Ho Kang. Oh, Camus, 12-4 record, trained out of Rufus Sports. Jeez, we're seeing a lot of Rufus Sports here, guys here. I think it's in Milwaukee, so it's just around the corner. 12-4 record, 4 wins by KO TKO, 3 wins by sub. This is all Chico Camus. He's 28 years old. He does have some good stand-up, and his submission defense is solid. Decent wrestling. I was a bit disappointed in Camus in his last fight against Dustin Kimura, because Kimura his strength is the ground, and he kept throwing up submissions from the bottom. Eventually managed to take Camus's back and choke him out. It was just really bad game planning and strategy as far as Camus is concerned, because I think he would have been able to beat up Dustin in the stand-up, but he went into Dustin's strength on the ground, and he paid the price. But Kyung-Ho Kang, if I'm not mistaken, his last fight against Alex Caceres in a fight that many people thought Kang should have won. I think he got no contest out of it, though, because Caceres was smoking weed. I hate that rule, but with Kang, 11-6 record with 1 no contest, 2 wins by KO TKO, 8 wins by sub. He's 25 years old. Some solid Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. He's a good wrestler, actually. Got to see it in the Caceres fight, and he's really good in the scramble. You know what? I think Kang will be able to take the fight to the ground, and if Camus wants to take it to the ground, he's got to worry about Kang's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game. I'm going to go with Kyung-Ho Kang to win this one. Okay, next fight. Okay, on to the Facebook prelims. We have Nikita Krylov versus Sal Paleli. Well, Paleli makes his return to the UFC. He fought there once or twice, I forgot. He lost against Eddie Sanchez. He has an 18-3 record, 14 wins by KO TKO, 4 wins by sub. He has 1 loss by by TKO and 2 losses by sub. So he's never been to decision in his MMA career. 35 years old. It's on an 8-fight win streak. Trains out of American Top Team. Good boxing, you know. With Nikita, 15-1 record, 5 wins by KO TKO, 10 wins by sub. His 1 loss is by sub, so he's also never been to decision. Interesting enough, though, out of his 16 fights, none of them have been past the first round. He is on a 3-fight win streak, and he's only 21 years old. But Here's the thing. It's his first fight in the UFC, and his overall level of competition has been very weak. Despite that, though, I'm not that impressed with Sal Palele, to be honest with you. Never really impressed with this guy. You know, he's 35 years old versus a young 21-year-old fighter. I'll go with youth over experience here. I'll go with Nikita Krylov to win this one. Okay, next fight after that, Ryan Couture fights Al Iaquinta. Ryan Couture has a 6-2 record, 1 win by TKO, 2 wins by sub. He's 30 years old. Trained out of Extreme Couture. Some good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. His stand-up, I'd say, is below average. Wrestling is decent. Iaquinta, though, you know, one of the early favorites to actually win his season on Ultimate Fighter until he got choked out by Mike Chiesa. He has a 5-2 record with 1 draw, 3 wins by KO TKO, 1 win by sub. Also has 2 losses by submission. He's 26 years old, on a 2-fight losing streak, training out of Serra-Longo. Solid stand-up, actually. One thing that's concerning with him, though, is he last fought Mike Chiesa back in June of 2012. So he has come off a layoff. I think he beats Couture on the feet. Hopefully he'll be able to hang on the ground with him. He is training with the right guys. So I'll go with Al Iaquinta to win this one. And finally, Magnus Sonnenblad fights Jared Hammond. Sonnenblad, 10-4 record, 6 wins by KO TKO, 3 wins by sub. Also has 3 losses by sub. He's 31 years old. With Hammond, 13-5 record, 10 wins by KO TKO, 2 wins by sub. He also has 4 losses by KO TKO. He's 31 years old. On a 2-fight losing streak. Good kick. He does have some good kickboxing. He's training out of Dynamics MMA in Santa Monica, if I'm not mistaken, under Anthony Hardonk. His defense, though, is weak, man. This guy gets hit clean, like, in every fight. Michael Cooper, like, killed the guy. Like, seriously, that was... Dude, like, I don't know what his corner was thinking, but, man, they shouldn't have let him fight. And he did last fight Michael Cooper, August 2012. One thing about Hammond, though, really resilient guy, good cardio. I mean, this is a guy that got taken down and almost arm triangled by C.B. Dalloway. Dalloway gasses out. Hammond ground and pounds him to oblivion, for example. I'm not really impressed with Sonnenblad, to be perfectly honest with you. Not a big fan of Jared Hammond, to be honest with you, but I think Jared Hammond wins this one. Okay, let's recap. On the main card, I have Benson Henderson beating Anthony Pettis. Josh Barnett beating Frank Mir. Chad Mendes beating Clay Guida. Brandon Vera over Ben Rothwell. And Erik Koch beating Dustin Poirier. On the Fox Sports 1 prelims, I got Gleison Tebow beating Jamie Varner. Luis Gaudinot beating Tim Elliott. Hyun-Gyu Lim beating Pascal Kraus. And Kyung-Ho Kang over Chico Camus. Okay, on the Facebook prelims, I got Nikita Krylov beating Sal Palele. Al Iaquinta over Ryan Couture. And Jared Hammond over Magnus Sonnenblad. So that's pretty much it for my predictions for UFC 164. Henderson versus Pettis 2. If you have any comments, just leave them below. And that's it for MMA for you. Thank you guys very much.